So let's see here. Ah, there we go. There's the Pepe. There's the smiling Pepe. All right, so I think it'd be relevant for us to go through the last email, right? All right, welcome to the stream. If you're just jumping on, okay. So yeah, let's go through this last email. So I do publish a free email. It's bullrunforever.substack.com. No games, no gimmicks. I started off with this with a very different intention than what it's at now. I kind of started it off with the idea of doing what many people do, which is, you kind of give some TA tips and stuff, and you hope they sign up to your affiliate links and all that. And I quickly decided that that was a really, really bad idea. And so it's just kind of funny, right? Like you hear me on these other streams, especially like the streams with whales and whatnot in the Discord Syndicate group. And we talk about like these really high level concepts of just like awakening essentially. And there's so many different layers to that. And one of the big things that I woke up to, finished waking up to this year is that, throughout history, and I don't mean to get too deep too quick here for you. So is throughout history, there's like these fabrications of history and of time and space and technology and all this shit, right? And I feel like Bitcoin specifically and cryptocurrency, the same thing happened there. And I feel like 2017 was literally when that happened. And I was just too dumb to see it, right? Because I was brand new to cryptocurrency, as with a lot of us were. Like the entire crypto junkie community was created in 2017, right? And we didn't see it happening. But excuse me, there was a slow hijack that occurred right after that, and it all was marked by, call it the mark of the beast, is the futures contracts, which is how institutions like to trade. They like to trade via futures, via ETFs, basically paper fake stuff that represents real stuff. And the reason why is because they get the benefit. It's a way to fractionalize an asset and allow them maximum leverage, which, for the most part, banks don't really like to get involved in things that they can't control the upside and the downside. And that might reign true. It might not, but these guys like to control both sides of that. And if they can't get that, then they usually don't get involved. And so I think that 2017 was more monumental than we realized. And what happened after that with, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was BCH and BSV and the falling out that happened there. There was the whole mining war that occurred where they tried to basically hold the chain hostage and force the miners to roll out these changes. And this was like the Craig Wright versus Robert Ver war that ensued. And I was one of those people who I knew just enough information to get in trouble with it. And, obviously I picked sides very ignorantly. And yeah, I think that was a bigger moment than people realize. And I think that really marked a change of direction that cryptocurrencies took as a whole. And so they started off as this very pure thing. And, at that point, I feel like that's when you could really mark the point in time when things changed. Now, it could have been sooner than that. I've done minimal research on the kind of 2013 era and the 2015 era, which were also significant points in time. So it might have been sooner, but I think the big point that you could mark it is 2017. And I just don't think it's the same that people realize. And just like you have scholars all over the world that say, oh, no, Darwinian theory and how we were even made and the Big Bang theory and how planets came together, like all this shit, right? You have people who just will not surrender to a new idea is the simplest way to put it. And the reason why we talk about this so much on all these streams is because there's just so many, there's so many different lenses to look through this. And I don't know which one is going to like be that moment for you and which one is going to like really help you out and bring some clarity to what you're, where you are at, right? And so anyway, there's all these Bitcoin maxis that just will not let it go, right? They're still holding on to this technology as if it's, let me give this link. They're holding on to this technology as if it's like still what it was, right? And I just think it's changed, and they either won't admit that, don't know it, don't care, and everything in between, right? All right, cool. We're gonna have Kinetics jump on. Kinetics is like an OG of crypto junkies. I think he was like one of the first people to join the Discord, which at the heyday we had like over 6,000 people in the Discord, and then And that was really a tragic moment, right? Like, so in case you're just jumping on, this is us. We are here today to talk about the history of Crypto Junkies, to talk about this year that has almost now completed, and really what's ahead, right? What's ahead for all of us, because I think that this year was much more significant than people realize. There's some good things that came out of this year and a lot of bad things that came out of this year. And it's important to discuss these things as much as we can, because there really is a tough road ahead. And it's going to take a very special person to get involved at the level that's going to need to be in the level of involvement that's going to be required to make change with the things that are rapidly changing. And so the whole Bitcoin story that I just dropped on you was just simply to state that it's the same story in different niches and markets. So in the same way, Bitcoin maxis will not admit that the shit's changed fundamentally. It's not what they thought it was, and it's not what they signed up for. And because they're too filled with ego and their pride won't let them admit that they're wrong or that the dynamic has changed. It's the same thing with scientists and doctors and anthropologists and you name it. There is a field out there right now where there's somebody who would just not let go to some shit that's been proven wrong now, right? And that's what you're dealing with crypto. And you're dealing with like just many different layers of that, from the Bitcoin community to the ETH community to whatever coin you can think of, right? So let's bring on Kinetics.
Hey guys,
what is up, man?
Hey buddy, I see a lot of Hexicans in the chat. It's good to see you guys. So just wanted to say good morning and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on. Yeah, definitely, man. And I'm just like recapping the year and recapping a lot of just like clarity that I've had as an individual, and then really like how to trudge forward and what the next year is going to bring. The next year is going to be very, very important. I don't think people realize it. There's going to be a lot of things that come to a head. I think economically, there's not a whole lot of room that the Fed has. They're almost guaranteed to do a rate hike, at least one, but they've now got 6 on the books in between now and 2023. Whereas before they had 0. So Goldman Sachs could not even conceive that they were going to have a rate hike before 2023. And Jerome Powell even said that. But now the hawkish behavior is swept in and they pretty much realize that they have no choice. And so here's the big illusion. And again, you hear myself, you hear Wales, Kinetics, all of us talking about this thing from just different vantage points, is that it's just, if you step back and look at the whole system, the system itself is fucking weird. It's just so weird, man. It's like, just look at what we allow. We sit back and we watch these TV screens with these people that are wearing suits, and they sound smart, right? And they have good posture, and they're clean shaven, and they're clean cut, and they sound smart, and they sound like they know what they're talking about. So we're just like, oh yeah, well, he must know what he's doing because he's smart. He's wearing a suit. And
they gave him a platform.
Yeah, they gave him a platform to talk on. But it's like, what you need to remember is that there's not a single fiat currency that's lasted. They all fall. At some point, they all collapse, and it all goes back down to 0. And something actually does need to come out and change all this. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen from the place that prints it. And it's not going to happen from the place that it's in their best interest to keep power by having a fiat currency, which is the government, which is the banks. They're not going to be the ones to create the solution. So let's stop pretending like they will be, right? There's
Well, it's the old Reagan quote. And I'm gonna butcher it, but you can't expect the people that created the problem to be the ones to solve the problem.
Right, and was it Einstein had a similar quote, which is, you can't solve a problem from the same state that it was created. So so I wish that was just obvious to like everybody, right? Like, it's so obvious to me, it almost gets boring to talk about some of this shit. Because maybe there's like new stuff that's exciting to me, or new layers of realization that are exciting to me. But a lot of like that level of the game is just like that, and then having to explain inflation, explain that it's a hidden tax, and explain how dangerous
unless you're closest to it. And so like that's what's great about Hex is, as a staker, you are the closest to the inflation that gets rewarded to you for staking. So you're actually the benefactor. The problem with the Federal Reserve and what the Fed is doing is that you and I are not closest to the money source. So we aren't closest to the inflation. The people who get the inflation and can spend it before it starts to affect the marketplace are greatly enriched.
Yeah, 100%. So unless you're close to it, like again, like I don't like to make these streams about hex, but it's pretty hard not to.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
No,
That's my
it's all
fault.
right. And it's kind of funny because the deeper I get involved in that community, the more I just noticed a lot of other things that I was involved in. I just started to question. And one of the biggest ones, and let me just tackle this now, and then I want to show you some Bitcoin charts, and we can further this conversation of something's changed, right? Yeah. But before we do that is, even earlier this year, there was just so much of my attention and focus and time spent like in the mix, like I had to know what was going on with, NFTs and yield farming and new launches and IDOs and IPOs and whatever the fuck they're calling it, right? I just had to be like in that mix. And it's so funny when you get a vehicle and you get, well, maybe I just got clued in more. Like I had, been in hex since middle of last year, I'd say. Maybe August or July of last year. I finally Connects is just like hitting me up all the time. And I'm finally like, all right, fuck, let me look at this. And got involved and, went through big payday and the rest is history. But then I was like, let me actually try and understand this. Cause it was kind of like more of like a passive thing. Didn't really understand what was going on still. And then the deeper I get in it, then I just like it forced another shift. And that shift was, why am I doing this? Like, have you ever just done that with like some area of your life? Like you're forced to stop. You're forced to stop the movement for a certain amount of time. And then it gave you time to reflect. And you couldn't really answer that question anymore of like, what the fuck am I doing? Or why am I doing this? In the chat, if you guys had a situation like that in life, isn't it profound? Like what that actually does to you? It fundamentally changes your life right in that moment. It's such a beautiful thing to experience. And it was just another layer of that hit me. And I was just like, you know what? Like, bro, like I'm like looking in the mirror, right? Having a little conversation with myself is, you don't have to be doing this shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could do something else. And then I started to explore that. And I started to really like get clarity again with like, what are my strong suits? And what do I want to be involved in? And get it gave me time to get a clearer picture of what was actually going on in the space. Because it's funny, when you pay attention to markets, the most dangerous thing about being in the markets is paying too much attention to the markets. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it's because you start to get so zoomed in that you're actually missing a ton of data. Just because you don't realize that you've got all these boundaries now and biases. And of course you want the shit to go up because you're probably long to some degree, whether you're spot long or in some sort of leveraged position. We're all built to see stuff go up. Nobody likes to see stuff go down in value, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, at that point, it gave me clarity to take a big step back and just be like, well, wait a second, what's actually going on in the space? And then it's like, all of a sudden my eyes just started to see things that I wasn't seeing before. And here we are, fast forward to today. Now I just get in everyone's face and I'm completely annoying. So, so it's allowed me to gain that perspective. Yep. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we have some people saying, yeah. Yes, I just thought that was really interesting. And so that is something that I can point to and say, like, that's changed my life for the better, regardless of what happens with hex. I don't care. It's already been amazing. It's already been an amazing journey. It could go to zero tomorrow and I wouldn't care. Just because like the perspective it's given me, and it allowed me to recalibrate, like, what do I expect out of an investment? What should I expect out of an investment? What should I expect out of myself? Like, do I need to be this involved like I am? And it's been fun because I have, the more that I've pulled back and pulled out of the weeds, it's given me what I feel like is profound clarity on a lot of big things that I was missing in the macro picture. Right? And
instead of chasing every pump, it's like, wait a second, I see more clearly the more I step back, and I'm making more than I ever did before.
Yeah, I went through that typical cycle. Let me tell you. Let me see if everyone in the chat has gone through this before. Maybe you've seen this in a fellow YouTuber. Is they go through like this, and this for me was 2017, where you go through this phase where you really don't know what's going on. And you're kind of like grabbing at everything, and you don't really recognize the concept of a pump and dump or a flat out scam, and kind of reach out and get involved in a bunch of those, and you get burned, you lose a lot of money. Maybe people followed you into these deals. You got that guilt and shame that's associated with it. And then you kind of go off and try and do some research. And then you, at some point, depending on which direction you go, you usually come back to the same place, which is that you really don't want to get involved with too much stuff. And it's safe to say that you're a Bitcoin maxi. So you find solace in this, like, just kind of defending Bitcoin and saying, fuck everything else, it's all a shit coin and blah, blah, blah. That's a safe position to have. It's not edgy anymore. You're not, you know what I mean? You're nothing special to say that. And I see that has happened with a lot of YouTubers that have been around since 2017, is they went through all the same shit we did. They went through the, whatever that was, the pooling phase where everyone was pooling together their money, and whatever it was called before, maybe it was ICOs, then IEOs, then IDOs, and I don't know what the fuck it's called now. Who cares?
Lending platforms.
And so
they all went through this.
We all went through this, right? And it's just been funny to see like how people reacted to it. A lot of people deleted their videos, shameful. People just walked away from YouTube, deleted their channels. They just let them die off. And then, the ones that are still around, that's their position now. Go take a look around. It's that everything pretty much sucks and everyone knows it. So I'll just say that Bitcoin's the best. And I would argue that that's a dangerous position. That's almost just as dangerous as not, it's like taking no position at all, because you're not really saying anything. You're just, you know what I mean? And you don't really have a set of ideas or beliefs of your own. You're just kind of like playing it safe in this thing that you still think is the same from when you got started in. So why did we all run off to these dumb things to begin with? Well, unit bias is a big one. FOMO and just like ADD in the markets. Like, you're just like, oh my God, look at all this opportunity. Look at all this opportunity. You become like this, I don't know, like this crazed, possessed person that just goes and does a bunch of shit that doesn't really make sense when you look at it in hindsight. And how many people are doing that right now? From like just meme coins to NFTs. I mean, that's a huge demographic of retail right now in crypto, is literally doing what I just said, but in a slightly different way. Right? You guys following along so far? So yeah, let's come back to it. Let's come back to Bitcoin. Remember what Bitcoin was supposed to be? Peer-to-peer, cashless, right? Decentralized way of exchanging value, essentially. And then that changed, and I can't remember what the narrative after that was, but then it was like digital gold. I think that
programmable money.
Programmable money.
Yeah.
Then digital gold. Then it's now a store of value. Well, okay, a store of value is supposed to act positively in a risk-off environment, correct? So that means when legacy markets become risk-off, when the dollar starts pumping or when something like that happens and occurs, then a speculative asset that people think is a safe haven, like metals, like Bitcoin was supposed to be, would pump. Well, like it shows you in the chart in front of us, is that's not really happening anymore. And this is a free email. You can jump to it. You can see the URL right up here. I am the tab master, so don't bother saying it. I understand that. That's probably 75 tabs open right there that you guys can see. So it's just not acting the same way that it used to. So here's Bitcoin's reaction to FOMCs or FOMACs. This is the Fed balance sheet. So this is the amount of bond purchases that the Fed is going through right now. And let's see if this is, oh, there we go. There's a bigger one. And you can look this up. I think it's WALCL on TradingView. And look at the reaction that Bitcoin is now.
Tab Junkies
up
is
against.
what's in the chat. Sorry.
Nice.
Tab
I like
Junkies.
that. See, I called your attention to all the tabs now. See?
Yeah, everyone's like, holy cow. Yeah.
So look at its reaction. Look at Bitcoin's reaction now to the money printer going burr. So it used to correlate positively, and there's some trickles of positive correlation occurring as like maybe, hey, we're gonna, announcements of like, hey, we're gonna print more money or buy more bonds or prop up the repo markets or whatever, right? As long as retail can understand what Jerome Powell's even saying, then that performed pretty well. But collectively, it's not performing that well. When we look at the
hold on, I want to throw this out there, throw this in the mix. Kurt Wuckert Jr. was recently on Patrick Bet-David's show, his PBD podcast, and he made a point that when all of the Kleinman appeals are done and everything, which should be within 60 days, fake Toshi, Craig Wright, says that he'll move some of the original Satoshi's coins and prove that he really is Satoshi. Well, he's had all this time to do that. So I don't know if this Kleinman thing has stopped him from doing it sooner. But can you just imagine the chaos and the disruption to Bitcoin that'll create when Craig Wright if he's able to actually move some of Satoshi's million coins? Could you imagine the disruption within the industry? Like, I'm waiting for. I almost wish for that firebomb personally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if you were to ask me that question a year ago, I'd have all sorts of defensive positions and like arguing about there's no way it could be and this is why it can't be. I guess now I just say I don't really care either way. I mean, I've shared this before, but I'll share it in case you guys haven't heard it. Is my personal opinion is I don't think that Satoshi was ever one person. I think it was a small collective. I think that Hal Finney was involved. I think Adam Black, who's still alive and still around, I think he was involved. And a couple other players. I think maybe 3 to 5 people total were actually hands-on involved. And that does put Craig in that timeline. Craig Wright, he could have been involved. Now, does he have access to that wallet? I don't know. Maybe this is a play to try and get other players to forcibly to stand up and say that they're part of this to get involved so that he would be splitting the money with like 3 people that are possibly alive. But he's still getting money. So like maybe he's using this as a precedence, like a court precedence to then be able to use it to force other people to stand up and say, yes, I was involved and then have to raise their hands so that then he can force that million coins to be cracked open and sent, dispersed out evenly. I don't know. Or it's just like he really is psychopath and whatever else you could label him.
Well, there's 3 possibilities. There's 3 possibilities. He's either lying, he's telling the truth, or he's crazy and he thinks he's telling the truth. So those are the only 3 possibilities that there are.
Go.
So
eloquently put. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I think that regardless, that'd be a pretty big shakeup. I remember when all this stuff was first happening, how much I defended, Bitcoin and this truth of Bitcoin when honestly I didn't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah. And it's funny. Yep. It's funny to like look back at the old versions of me and be like, oh, that was cute. That was
cute. Yeah, that was before I knew better. That was, and I was still an infant in this space. So
yeah.
So
absolutely.
I want to say shout out to Johnny Chaos. Thanks for being here, brother. Mango Junkie, Cryptocracy. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Jay, I'm going to go get ready. I got my show here in about 40 minutes. So
sounds good.
I better get going. But I just wanted to stop in and say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. And just wanted to show mad love, mad respect for the Crypto Junkies and what Jay's done here. So thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for jumping on.
Yep. We'll see you later, bro.
All right. See ya. Yeah, I mean, so the journey that we've been on is pretty cool. Like I will say this, before I got involved in crypto, I was involved in digital marketing, and the communities that were being built around that, they weren't really this friendly, and they weren't the life cycle of a friendship in that space just really wasn't that long. And a lot of people were it was like a revolving door. And I will say that, I've got like 3 or 4 actual friendships out of crypto that has lasted through some, really, really hard times. And that's where you really test it from a friendship standpoint is through the hard times. The easy times are always easy. And the hard times are usually where you get to see like what everyone's made of. And, like how pure, I guess, the friendship is, right? Because that's when it's tested. And so, yeah, it's been beautiful to see. But on the screen that you got in front of us is, excuse me, literally choking on water. As we've got Bitcoin to the SPX, which is just the S&P 500. So Bitcoin in orange to SPX in pink. And again, there was a time when these were matching and mirroring together. Like you can see this entire COVID timeline up until recently, things pretty much matched and mirrored. Now they diverge a little bit, and there's definitely a gap between the two. But for the most part, they're following suit, right? Which just means that they're both being treated as a risk on and risk off asset up against the dollar. So I wouldn't say that that's like a positive thing, positive correlation at all. Okay, we're going to skip through this. This just talks about flows into Bitcoin funds and ETFs, which this is from Morgan and Bloomberg Finance. And you can see it's way down. And here's based off of Bitcoin futures and ETH futures. And then do I have the other one? Nope, the other one was just projections. So basically down, right? Which I guess you could say that represents institutional flow right now, and institutional demand is because they tend to play around with futures products more than like spot. And like they're definitely not on Binance, opening up 100x leverage position, right? So the big key things that I want to give you here coming into the new year is there's about 8 billion set to expire, which is about 50% of total open interest as of a couple of days ago. I think this was on the 19th. I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but as of the 19th, this represented 50% of the open interest in Bitcoin and ETH. So it should be fireworks. The year-end expiration on options. There is, I think, 5 billion in. Let's just double check. Yeah, 5 billion in Bitcoin, and we got 2.9 billion in ETH. So expect some sort of fireworks. And what's difficult about right now, like from a chart standpoint, is that Bitcoin chart and ETH chart aren't really that strong. If we look at the total and total two, which those represent the total market cap of the entire crypto space, we're hovering right at like support, which is in the 2 trillion area for total, and total two right about 1.1 trillion, which represents everything minus Bitcoin. So it's like markets aren't really that strong right now, and you're about to go into like the slowest, most lulled weekend of the entire year, which is Christmas weekend and then New Year's Eve. Yeah, I don't expect it to pump. I don't expect Bitcoin to pump. But I will say this as a caveat is low liquidity usually is good times for extreme price movement. And so we could assume low liquidity, especially with these expirations coming up, right? And then this last one here is just pretty interesting. So for March, there is a lot of 15K calls. So $15,000 ETH calls opened up on options positions for, I don't know why I put 8K calls, probably because the chart stopped at 8. Well, I thought it did. It's actually like right up here. So yeah, so anyways, that's pretty interesting because like, you know, how many year-end predictions and people were trying to call, you know, what the price would be at the end of the year. I mean, I've seen some pretty hilarious ones from 100,000 up to 300,000. I mean, if we hit 80, we'd be lucky. But I mean, where are we at right now? So I'm a day ahead of you guys. So we're at the 20th or the 21st. I really don't see how in 9 days you're just going to get some epic pump that's going to be able to sustain 8 billion coming off the table at the end of the year and a really slow, sleepy week where nobody's really going to be paying attention in markets. Or is this year different? I don't know. Like everyone's already been home all year. So it's like, is that going to change? Well, not everyone, but a lot of people have, right? So I don't know. Is that going to change? What do you guys think? All right. So I think that's it I had there. Yeah. Yeah. And I got a comment up on the screen. Fiat currency is a global problem. It really is. You know, average fiat currency, I think, lasts just over 50 years. I used to do quite a bit of research pieces on this and publish them on a YouTube channel that I don't really do anything with anymore. And we used to do like all kinds of shorts and more like a video essay style, like what Jake Tran does. And I had all this data memorized for the longest time, but it's just like, you know, you fill your brain with enough shit, and you got to start dumping some out. But yeah, fiat currencies don't really tend to last that long. So it's like 2022, I keep saying it's going to be an interesting year. And I really think that, like, especially for people who hate goal planning, I really think you should plan to a degree. Always hope for the best and plan for the worst, I think is a pretty decent mantra to live off of. I'm not going to get into any of that kind of stance on things, but I just think that there is a lot to think about, right? In the markets, we've got a fiat currency, the US dollar, which is not in the greatest of positions right now. And there's all this push for a digital currency. It'd be a pretty perfect time to swap those two out and roll out the CBDC, wouldn't it? And so I wouldn't put that past, even though the Fed is saying that they're like 3-4 years away from a Fed Now coin. And everyone's kind of talking about that they're just slow rolling out, you know, little sampling and little tidbits now. I mean, either they're slow playing it or they're telling the truth, which, I mean, when does a banker or a bank ever tell the truth? So I assume they're slow playing this, and then they're just going to bang, drop it, right? Drop it out. And it'd be pretty perfect timing because then they could make the adjustments that they need to from a balance sheet standpoint if they needed to erase a few zeros or, you know, consolidate, which is essentially what they do when hyperinflation destroys a currency. Take Zimbabwe as a prime example. And I remember Jason Hartman showing his Zimbabwe dollars on the Chat with the Captain show. I should probably get some of those too, just because they are a pretty monumental piece of history as we go on in time. They're a nice reminder too. So anyway, my point with that is, yeah, there's that big piece, which is that, okay, what's going to happen with rates? What's going to happen with inflation? And understand that like a 25-point basis jump of interest would then make the debt level so high that it would be over 30% of GDP. And Druckenmiller, rather, was talking about this back in May of this year and sounding the alarm bell, which everyone conveniently was ignoring. But it's like, you're starting to see that. You're seeing the stock market pull back, which it probably should be pretty slow and lazy for the rest of the year until after January. And so I assume that crypto, because what we just saw is that it tends to follow that. I mean, why wouldn't that essentially follow suit? Most people are going to be risk off through the holidays. They want to kind of unplug and take time with the family, right? All right, let me catch up on chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will get back to regular streaming. I know it's important to stream on a regular basis. We fell off for a couple of weeks. A lot of changes, new offices getting set up, new staff. We had to retrain people. Lots of dramas that I'm sure you don't care about that led to us to our little gap in streams. Okay, so let me see this. You think it could range between until the end of the XRP case? I'm actually not familiar with the XRP case, so if you want to drop that and we can take a look. Yeah, more than happy to pull it up, but I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, so I just think that, one of my big goals with every live stream that I go on and every community that I've now kind of become a part of is really just to help people understand as best as I can, the different pieces and the layers of illusion that we've all kind of allowed ourselves to buy into, these social contracts that now more than ever, not only are they not true, but now it's more dangerous now than ever to still subscribe to those notions and pretend like everything's the same and pretend like everything's okay. And so we're talking about like your livelihood, your legacy, your family, your safety, protection, all those pieces are now much more at stake than they ever were before. And so that's why I'm beating that drum so much. And that's why I'm taking such a strong stance on it, is because I want people to, I want more people to be in on this journey with us. And I think crypto is fundamentally changed from what it was and what it set out to be. I think that's a bad thing. And I think that the hostile takeover has already occurred. And now that they're just putting the final pieces, the final nails in the coffin with what they have planned for how they're going to rank stable coins, how they're going to, disassemble DeFi, which I don't even think they got to do much for DeFi. Let's just talk about that briefly, is because they've already injected all of their Obama era, Bush era, Clinton era, people into these DAOs, which people have really not been paying attention to. The DAOs themselves suck and really aren't that secure. Admin key issues all the time, which that in itself is pretty interesting, isn't it? If you look at it, I don't even know what the total amount of losses are over the last 12 months in crypto. Do you? Like, how come I can't just go see in a news article that's, obviously going to be glorifying regulation, because look at all these losses as an example. You'd think that that'd be a really easy piece to write. It'd be really easy for them to dig up and find out how many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars have been lost. I would argue billions just this year alone. How come there's no piece like that? And if there is, link me. I just think it's really odd that, yeah, real quick. I haven't touched that Twitter. I'm not really on Twitter because I think Twitter's an important tool, but overall, I think it's cancer. Okay, so if anyone can find me a list of the total losses from just this year, not even since crypto started, which that would be another astronomical number. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, why, like the Grim hack that just happened the other day, the previous exploits, why are those never talked about on like media or news or Bloomberg crypto or any of those things? Well, to a degree they are, but there's like no real running tally from what I've been able to find. I'm not looking that hard, granted, but yeah, I think it's because to a degree they kind of need to normalize those big losses, right? And if they were glorifying the losses from a media standpoint, that would actually be a bad thing, because it would get people to be more skeptical, and they need people to be more loose knit with their wallets, don't they? To get into these pump and dumps and get into all this shit activity, right? So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely insane to think about. And I mean, just this year alone, I mean, I got rugged. How many times did I get rugged? 2 or 3 times, right? Earlier in the year, like in the beginning of the year when I was still kind of playing the game. which is, even that version of me is just funny to look back at. Trying to do that is just, it's funny. It's masturbatory at best, because you just realize that your time is better spent on other things. And it's like, for some people, they might want to be that person, and that they might be able to associate themselves with that journey of being like glued to the monitor 24/7. I just think that for most people, they think that's the only way that they can make money and the only way that they can express themselves. So they start to identify with it because of how much time they spend on it. Because if they didn't identify with this task and this thing, this hobby that they're now spending 15 hours a day on, they would feel like a loser. And their mom's probably already calling them a loser because they're in her basement, right? So it's like they have to say, I'm a crypto this or crypto that, right? But yeah, anyway. So no links shared, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter, but that's a lot of futures lost, man. That is a lot of hardship created. You thought, like, a lot of people, when all the small business numbers were coming out of how many small businesses were getting shut down because of the lockdowns, I think it ended up to be like 200,000 or 300,000 small businesses, right? Ended up shutting down in the U.S. People are like, wow, that's an astronomically high amount. But if we look at the amount of small business registrations that have actually occurred since COVID, they're way up. So that's a good thing. That's different. Like, as much as it might sound weird, I just feel like people could rebound better from losing a small business versus losing their life savings, which sometimes a small business is their life savings. So I think there's a thin line there, but I think they can rebound quicker from a small business loss versus I just lost my investment account, my 401k in, some crypto shitcoin, right? So anyways, yeah, I really didn't have a plan for this stream. I just wanted to get on and wish you guys happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and thank you for all your support throughout this year. And really just those of you that have been there since the beginning, those of you who've jumped on board and supported us this year since we kind of revamped the channel and we've got this new direction going. I think what we're talking about and this kind of realistic angle, let's call it, of what's going on in the space and some of these bigger topics that need addressing, I think it's really important. Because everyone plays their role, all the way down to the guy who he learned how to trade. He lost a bunch of money, got liquidated a million times. He learned how to trade, and he's living it up. Like, he's just bought a condo in Miami, doesn't really care about anything, just shit posts on Twitter all day long. Like, he's playing his role. As much as it seems like he's not. I wish there was more people that financially would put skin in the game to kind of get involved with the game that we're playing right now. But it's it's not for me to decide what somebody else does with their money. So everyone is kind of playing their role, and we need more people to with money, with skin in the game, or just some sort of skill that can correlate to get involved in the change, right? Because right now, like, it's just interesting to see at the perspectives and the ideas floating around. And so you can get a pretty wide range of ideals, right? You can get people like your zero hedges and your like very fringe economists that just want to see the whole thing burn down to the ground. They get a cheap thrill off of the I told you so's, and they think that the way through all this is to just completely dismantle all this. Whereas I don't think so. I think the Constitution itself is something very special. I think it was written not by us, but probably by something before us or someone before us. I think what it represents is a very pure way for us to live harmoniously and peacefully together. And I think things like that need to be upheld and need to continue on, right? Which is why there's such a active force to destroy it, because that tells you how pure it is, right? And you see similar things with a crypto project like Hex, with all the gatekeeping and all the games from the YouTubers to everyone else in between, right? It's just it's kind of comical at this point to have seen so much now, and that community has gone through a lot, by the way. Like, in the very beginning, most people don't know this, but those people are getting death threats. Those people are getting doxxed for supporting a fucking crypto coin. Like, I've never heard of that in my life. Can you imagine that? It'd be like, getting doxxed and getting threats over like a video game. Because, I mean, if we think back, this was what, 2019 when this came out? Was crypto that serious then? Not really. We were in a bear market. Like, is that why that happened? Maybe because everyone was so angry and so disgruntled with what Bitcoin was doing that they had to pick up a new hobby, which is trying to destroy people's lives. But, yeah, people that got in early to this, they did not have an easy road. So it's kind of funny because you see that quite a bit. And you see that in every market, is like that hindsight. Like, if I would have just put $10,000 in Apple when it first came out, I'd have $260 million. Well, dude, that was what, 83? You could have gotten stocks, I think, with the first year. And what the fuck? Like, no one would have held on to that. Nobody would have held on to that for that long. So, and it's the same thing here. Is like people just assume that there's like this easy road, and there's not. And so, using that as a transition to get back to what we were talking about is, this upcoming year, there's a lot of important things to pay attention to and to get involved in some sort of way. And I hope that more and more people do that. I hope that more and more people get rich off crypto. I want everyone to get rich, because it's kind of funny when all there's like different phases to this. When your basic necessities are covered, you act different. When you start to like get up, let's say you're in the 150 to 250K range, you start to act a little differently. You start to operate with a little bit more freedom, and you start to ask some deeper questions of what you really want in life. Then there's like million, and then there's like, 5 to 10, and, on and on and on it goes. But when everyone is rich, the first thing, like you can tell how somebody was born and raised, because if the first response is like, who's going to pick up the garbage if everyone was rich, then you kind of know that they were born like me, like in middle, like I'd say lower middle class. I guess if I wanted to rank myself or categorize myself. And so that's like a common thought that comes up, but you have to think bigger than that. You have to realize that there's so much shit you're doing that you don't like, but you're just doing it to do it. You're doing it because it's a habit, and you're doing it because you're making money off of it. Whereas if you had that freedom, that financial freedom, and used it for what it is, which is a tool, then you would be able to develop an actual identity and a direction in life that might be different than what you're living now. And you might find yourself to be a whole lot happier. And those are the deeper concepts that actually got me really excited and wanting to be involved with something like Hex, is because you don't hear that in any other community. I challenge you to find something that where somebody's like talking deeply, like, hey, I want you to win. I'm creating stuff, hopefully, that you'll get involved with so that you win. So then you can actually start to discover yourself and whatever, explore the world, travel, whatever you got to do to then like wake up and get aligned with something that you feel that is impactful for you and you want to get involved in. Like, I think that's a fucking great message. I don't know what the problem is with that, right? And yeah, it's just been interesting to kind of see a lot of that occurring with a project like Hex. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Pulse and Pulse X with those launches coming up. Self-actualization usually occurs people after achieving financial freedom. Yes. Okay, let's put this up. Absolutely, it does. And it's almost like a requirement that you, like the money game, you can't ignore. I've tried it. Trust me, man. I've tried to hide from life. I've tried to drown it out with substance. I've tried to, turn into a fucking Buddhist, whatever you want to call it, an enlightened person. And all those are really just failed attempts at escaping from the truth. And the truth is that there's this thing that we all do, and we transmit value to each other through this thing called currency. You want to call it a money, whatever, however you define it. But those paper bills or something like that is how we really exchange value to each other. And you can't hide from that, right? It's because at the end of the day, and it's sad, but I know a ton of temples that are in disarray out throughout Asia, and the government don't give a fuck about the temples. So it's up to the people to give the temples money to rebuild and reestablish, which even that's something that I think everyone could get behind, right? To ensure that these older religions and spiritual practices continue and, don't fall to the wayside and completely become obsolete or whatever, or disappear. But yeah, I can tell you that being involved in that circle, there was hunger and starvation and worry of money in that circle just as much as there was in the poverty circle in fucking Warren, Michigan, where I was born and raised, with all the mixed community that I was involved in. And there was the same fucking conversations. So it's like there's not much enlightenment in there, I hate to tell you. But and you can be as enlightened as you want, but when it comes time to eat, everyone's hungry, right? So you can't hide from that shit. And it's just funny how much we try to, right? And I've gone through just about every phase I think you could go through to attempt to hide from that fact that it's a tool and the whole planet uses it. So you got to get with that part of the program. And so you just got to figure out how you want to play that aspect, right? And that part of the game. And I think a lot of people run and hide from that. Cool. So how about we do this? How about we pivot into questions? I think I've ranted and rambled enough. Starting to kind of lose my voice. Ripple versus SEC. Okay, I'll look at that. I think I've been keeping up on that, and I'm pretty sure The last update was like maybe like a month ago, right? I don't know what's happening right now, but all right. Never trust the coin with finance. Cool. Yeah. Any questions or anything you guys want me to look at or pull up and talk about? I know that Kinetics has a stream coming up, so I'm sure plenty of you will jump over there. I'm going to actually go to bed because I set up this stream. It's nice now. I can do a 10 p.m. stream, my time, and then I can go to bed. Whereas last night, it was going to be like a midnight stream, and I just fell asleep, and it turned into a big thing. Yeah, media degeneracy has killed religion. It has. That's again, I don't like to get too conspiratorial. I know a lot of people, they see this to some degree, whether it's on purpose or not, it doesn't really matter, but there is a disconnection happening. There's a disconnection happening with our fellow man. There's division occurring. There is division occurring in the household. There's division occurring within ourselves, within our communities. Yeah, and then, like I said, within yourself, you're seeing division occurring. And that's a dangerous place to be because you can hijack somebody pretty easily with very low levels of NLP or neuro-linguistic programming, very low levels of hypnosis. You can literally take people over and get them to start marching to the beat of your drum of a message that might make zero logical sense. And you see that a lot in the world around you, right? And so the hypnosis machine is the TV, it's the fear, it's the droning on about something now that it was 2 weeks to slow, and now it's gone on for 2 years. And so I don't care what aspect of acceptance you have with that piece, is you have to start asking deeper questions of why is that still around? Why haven't we just like normalized and gone back to some resemblance of a life? Why did we stop the entire world for this thing that has questionable tracking death rate to many other things that we just live with, like auto accidents and flu season and so on and so forth, right? Why was that so hyper extended and focused, right? You have to start asking these questions at some point. Yeah. Thoughts on pulse X? Here's the funny thing. Okay, let me just circle to this for a second. I did want to make this point actually because I saw this. It's interesting. There's a couple of like Telegram groups and stuff to where like you can tell that they're like normal people, a lot of retail money and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, but if you don't design for a living, then I don't think you really should have an opinion. Like, well, okay, I don't give a shit about your opinion on a logo if you don't do design for a living, or if you've never done design in your life, or if like any fill in the blank, like you've never opened Photoshop, you've never actually like understood how things balance out and colors and schemes and design. If you have like no experience doing that, which I have like 10 years experience doing that, then I don't really give a shit about your opinion about a logo. And I saw the most hilarious conversations ensuing and arguments, literally arguing over the fucking logo of Pulse X. So I like the name way better than Pulse Swap because Pulse Swap sounds like Sushi Swap, which sounds like every single other swap that has now launched on all these other, all these other chains. So yeah, I like it. I like the fact that it's different. I like the fact that the logo is different. It's not a hex. I like the fact that the colors are different. There's no synthwave, retrowave going on with it. I like a million things about it. But ultimately, like, I don't really have a strong opinion or care, like from a, I think it rolls off the tongue. I think it's a shorter domain. I think that's smart. But yeah, from a logo standpoint, just to be clear, I don't care. Because the logo, I would argue in this space, the logo is not what's going to make you money. It's the design of the smart contract and really what it's doing. So, but I am excited for that. I'm excited that that's going to be happening. Like we're 10 days out from the end of the year. So we got 10 days. They plan on launching this. So yeah, I will be sacrificing for that. I will be getting involved in that. I'm excited for it, and definitely excited for Pulse. Yeah, fear does cause amazing reactions, and it's a shame. But I mean, they clearly know that. Whoever you want to identify them as, like, who cares? Again, that doesn't really matter. And everyone, like, that's why it's so important to discuss like a lot of that, even though I don't like to, is just because everyone is at a different phase of it, right? And every time you come to a new level or layer of understanding of like whether it's our history or I don't know, where like mud floods fit into it or Tartaria or whatever piece you're looking at, as you come through those gates, there's like a new layer. You go through the emotional scale all over again, like wonder, joy, excitement, then anger, then aggression, then bitterness and envy and everything else in the middle. And then you finally work your way back to like, you can have conversations about that topic now and be fairly neutral. You're not gonna be triggered. And so, yeah, like people need to work their own way through these gates, let's call them. And so that's why it's so important to like, kind of get, work both sides of the emotional frequency, right? Like, let's be nice, and I'll come over here, put my arm around you, like we're buddies, and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna slap you in the face, and like both work really, really well. And I've judged this. Like, just go judge this in your life. Like when you come, a lot of times when you come from like this nice, lovely brotherly love angle, nobody listens, right? But when you come in their face and you're yelling, they listen because you got their attention. So, both work. I don't know which one works better. I just think it's based on the individual and the timing. So that's why it's important to like talk about these gates and talk about all these illusions, right? The illusion that I can throw a guy on TV, give him some status, give him a suit, and you will trust him with your money. You'll trust him with your financial future. You'll trust him with your decision to buy a new house, to move. That is insanity. That is insanity if you really think about it. So yeah, Hex is up to 30 cents. Oh, you know what? Let's do a little chart porn. Actually, let me share this. I was going to do we're still training a new editor. I was going to do another TA video for Discourse. I'll probably get to that in a couple days, I hope. We're almost caught up. We're behind like 15 videos. Fuck. All right, let me share my screen. So I don't want to go through a whole thing because I wanted to save that for the video that I upload there. But I don't remember what we were talking about last time. Let's get Pepe off the screen here. Just this, right? Oh, that'll work. But I think we're like right in here, right? And I said, hey, we needed to reclaim this. And you need your typical break, hook, and go. Let's explain a break, hook, and go. You break a level, you come back, test it, set the hook like you set a hook on a fish, and then go, right? And the same thing works the other way here, something like that. And you need that at key levels. And key levels are based around like multiple factors. So it's not just like, oh, I'm picking these lines out of my butt and just deciding, oh, this is a key level, this is a key level. No. We're basing it off of things like this VPVR, which is visible price, visible range. It's momentum over price, momentum indicators themselves, volume. So yeah, you're basing it off of as many variables as you can. You're looking to coincide. And that's when you get the most complete picture and you're hitting the highest strike rate possible of that move, right? And there was just way too much happening down here. It was actually here that it started. And I said, okay, it could probably come down and swoop and do a big double bottom and or like kind of stick in this area, because looking back over here, like this is a big area of liquidity and of action. And then I said, I think I was saying if this failed, it would be 9 cents. Well, I think, yeah, okay, so we'll see it here. There it is. So look at this low volume node over here. Well, that like 9 cents, because it's this whole range. So the bottom was 9 to 11 cents. It was front ran. So it just meant that like a lot of people were seeing this, right? And some level they were thinking, oh man, those 9 cent juicy buys, right? So it's front ran at what? 12? Was it at 12? So yeah, it didn't even hit 10. Front ran, and then it worked its way back up, and you just play this level by level if you were trading. But nobody on this stream is trading, right? Because that's just, I don't know, kind of stupid with this asset. You're losing by holding. So you might as well just lock it up in a stake and just, go on with your day. So yeah, what are we looking at now? Well, I measure a lot of these like levels or these like dotted lines that I've got on here. They're very simple. They're just square ups. It's just where like buyers and sellers met, shook hands, made a deal, and they created this this square up where we've literally got this exact horizontal level, which there was one here. And we're on a 3-day chart too. Let me just take a step back. We're on a 3-day chart. So it's like, damn, dude, this is a higher time horizon, this is what's happening. And we just peeked over and started to create a, let's call it a positive momentum island. And yeah, we're on our way back up to like the next area to kind of start taking a look is this little green box. Let's extend them out, break this level, get up into here. And yeah, what was I looking at? I think I was looking at, I think I fibbed from the bottom now, which this is the bottom. The bottom is in. I think I fibbed from the top to the bottom, and the last pump up here extended like 2618 on a fib level, which is a deep retrace. So that's in a pretty extreme level, which you see in altcoins in general. Like Doge does that all the time. When Doge runs, it'll go up 1618 level, it'll go 2618 level all the time, right? And so Hex did that. And so if we were to see 2618 again, I think that puts us over just over $1. It's kind of funny. Then today I saw a couple of other people talking about others, synchronicities of, this would hit and it'd be $1, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know about that. I didn't really pay too much attention to the few charts that I saw, but I would say that from a fib standpoint is if it does go back and essentially do the same thing or close to it, you're at $1, which is pretty cool. And it's about fucking time. Like, come on, dude. I don't even need to sit here and build a case for like why $1. Like, holy shit, why it's not $1 is pretty insane. In comparison to like other dog shit assets, meme coins, etc. Like, yeah. So anyway, it's just gonna take time, right? The more NFL players that start using it and stake up, and the more times you see 5555 hashtags, that's the way it's gonna go, right? So anyways, yeah. So looking at that square up, which again, look at how funny these levels are. When you have an asset like this, which is not on a ton of exchanges, so you don't have wash trading occurring, you don't have huge volume occurring throughout the day, which just adds fuckery to a chart. When you don't have that, you've got like a fairly fair, I guess, or pure asset like this. Is the chart can be really easy to read because it literally just plays off of levels, key fib levels. And those key fib levels, coincidentally, line up with big round numbers, 20 cents, 10 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents, right? And so everything you'll see is either front ran, it hits that price, or it's front ran right before that price. There you go. There's your trade strategy. There's your plan. Like, just expect that to keep happening. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how easier to make it. We don't have to complicate this at all. Like, I could draw like Bilkowski patterns and all kinds of like weird shit on this, but why? Why bother? So that's what we're looking at now. Same thing. Break above it, break hook and go. Oh, yep, right in here. So this whole sort of zone we're kind of keeping an eye on. What is that from a price standpoint? So 30 cents was the front run that we just saw. Oh no, it did go over 30 cents. So there you go. And it's a 3-day. So if we were to drill down, hold on a second. I haven't looked at this. What does a 1 day look like? So 1 day, we're going to close in 9 hours. I think closing above 30 cents would be significant on a daily. Again, you could expect this to continue up. If we see that, maybe we'll get some ranging going on here. Coming back and back testing these levels down here. I don't know. I wouldn't expect that, but I guess it wouldn't really matter because another thing, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like, this was a 96% pump right here. Like Hex can run 100% a day. So does a 10 cent, pullback really matter when you can run 96% in a day or two? Not really, right? Not really at all. Okay, price of E-Hex and P-Hex in a year. I don't know. I hate doing stuff like that. I don't care. Yeah, I don't know. Probably it's safe to assume that they will be undervalued, right? So unless there's some big narrative shift, which again, playing on that macro picture wouldn't it be in your best interest for the macro stuff to kind of fall apart because then it makes something like Hex shine so well, doesn't it? I mean, I think it does. All right, let's quickly look at totals. I brought these up earlier. Total market cap is a great thing to pay attention to. I know a lot of you are going to be jumping off, so let's give it a sec and I'll wrap up. So total market cap, look at this green box. Just completely playing ball with this green box, which is sitting just above 2 trillion. Again, psychological number. This represents the total market cap. So it's just floating in there. Not really showing strength though, is it? That's not really that strong, right? This big dump. Like it just looks like it just keep legging down. Now, how long this will hold, I don't know. I don't really care. But yeah, that represents the entire crypto market. This one on the right represents, and this is a 1 day, this is a 3 day. This represents everything but Bitcoin. And this sits, again, the kind of just over 1 trillion is the sort of, I guess, key area there, whereas it's just over 2 trillion here. Same thing going on. Not looking that great, not looking that strong. What else do we got? Here's Bitcoin. So yeah, these wedges like this, these descending wedges tend to break out to the upside. It's just how it goes. Or descending flag, whatever you want to call it, who cares? Yeah, so just a couple key levels marked out here. Would it go up and touch? Okay, so front ran 50K. Yeah, that's it. Hex, there's Hex, cool. Did some charts. Anyways, let's wrap it up there because I know that, Wake Up Hex is about to jump on, right? So anyways, thank you so much for this year. Thank you for following. Just hit the like button if you got a second. You know the algorithm game on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already so that way you don't miss out on live streams like this in the future. Our normal time is Thursdays. I think we're going to stick with that. We're going to do Thursdays at 10 p.m. because then there's a show on Discourse right after that. We share a huge audience with them. So thank you for this year. Spend some time with your loved ones. Tell them you love them. Hug them. Touch people. It's good for you. And have a Merry Christmas. Have an amazing holiday. And I hope 2022 is epic for all of you.